Welcome to episode 80 of A Master's Degree in Rolling Terribly. I'm your host, Eddie. Joining me this week, a man who gives me the energy to keep on keeping on. In sickness, and when I'm out of ideas, when my motivation takes a dive due to life challenges. He's an incredibly important person in my life and is essential to amDirt, and I couldn't imagine doing any of this without him. Say hi, Gaz.
Oh, really? Me? Oh, okay. I thought it was going to be someone else.
I was this close to putting like anyone else's name.
Yeah, I honestly thought that you were going to just thank a random person on the internet. Like, you know, so I appreciate that. I'm lost for words. Not really, but yeah, hi guys.
Yeah,
how you going?
Oh, I just realized I forgot to put the Gaz in there, so I guess I'll have to edit that.
That's right. Yeah,
just some capacity. Just people wouldn't know who you are, and who, you know, if I'm not doing it properly, it's not the same person.
Episode 80. Like, I feel like we're at that part of your MMO where we like raced up to like the last, 20%, and then it turns into like a real slog, like a grind. Like, not that it's not fun doing this, but the episodes aren't ticking over as fast. It's
like we don't want to kill Ganon, Gaz.
That's true. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We're just doing all the side quests.
Pretty much. We were sharing our Zelda adventures, and I've never actually killed a boss in Zelda, like ever.
Like as in the last boss.
Yeah, like Ocarina and
Oh, you didn't finish Ocarina?
Nope. This close, and then realized, oh no, it's nothing but me and the bad guy. Well, I will do this later, and later never came. I just can't finish. I just can't do it.
It's unfortunate. Yeah, well, look, hopefully, this doesn't finish, right? I mean, we just can continue to do side quests forever.
Yeah. Like, it's weird because, we're going to have to obviously finish it and, wrap everything up with what's going to be the most epic finale in all of board gaming. Or, you know what? All of gaming. That's how big it is when we complete Frosthaven. And I'm just not mentally ready for it yet, but
yeah,
maybe next year.
There's this thing that, I've done in my life and I've done before where you assume everything's going to be really bad. And then when it's just okay, you're like, oh, I'm surprised about that. Do it with movies all the time. Assume something's going to suck. And then when you go and it's like a 6 out of 10, you're like, oh, that's way better than I thought. Whereas that if you thought it was going to be a 9, then you're disappointed. You've just done the complete opposite of that by building this up to be completely unachievable in the best event in gaming ever. So good luck with that.
I should treat Frosthaven like my football team. Just go in there nice and pessimistic. We can't finish this.
I can't treat it like your football team, though.
Because you hate my football team. On today's episode, we're going to be covering a little bit of DirtSheet. We'll be chatting about our scenario for the week, which was scenario 85. Deadly Pastimes. This was a recommended one when we were providing a community with the opportunity to pick a scenario or scenarios that we need to do before we finish. And this one seems to be universally liked.
Yeah, a lot of people.
More than 2 people.
Yeah, that's it.
How many?
Yeah.
We had another retirement, a slightly weird one. And with that comes another character joining the fray. And finally, we will talk about our final 2 trials and the trial wrap up.
That's right. I completely forgot that happened. Yeah.
Yeah. Exciting. So, Gaz and I literally just finished up today, and it should be out by the time this episode lands. We did another unboxing. And, well, basically less than a month ago, the devs in Reddit, and I believe other places, locations, because it's not just Reddit that the world exists.
Probably Discord as well.
Probably the Discord as well. The devs lifted the lid on the Envelope X character. And up until then, I was just, okay, after our unboxing and before we recorded this, I decided to look into it just a little bit.
Well, you'll tell by the start of the unboxing that we didn't really know what that he's talking about now, because that's why he's talking about this like he knows what he's talking about. I'm like, I don't know, a few hours ago you had no idea. So not to break that fourth wall, but yes, I'm glad that you looked into that and can talk with a little bit more like authority.
Yeah, so it's, from what I understand, the everything about Envelope X is still like super spoilery. It was like beyond spoilery, almost like it didn't exist spoilery. And they've lifted the lid on it now because it's so readily available. Gloomhaven First Edition, which is what it originally came with, the envelope anyway, has been out of print for like 18 months. So it's kind of like, if you haven't found it by now, if you haven't worked on it by now, you've had ample time, and we're now making it like any other locked character in terms of how it's discussed, because no one was even making reference to it with the occasional hint of Envelope X, and that's all I ever saw. So I didn't bother looking into it any further. I was just like, Envelope X, sounds like too much work.
So it's actually in the game, like as in like there's an envelope X, like there's clues to find it, and then you go to like the internet and then download it. So it's like
pretty much. Yeah. So this is obviously going to be a Gloomhaven spoiler thing. I may have to change the intro to following episode may have spoilers about Gloomhaven and Frosthaven. I won't, but anyway. So yeah, it was an envelope with, I think, just a bunch of cards or a bunch of I haven't opened it, I haven't looked into it. It was puzzles essentially. It was a whole bunch of puzzles that and maybe some instructions, very loose instructions of what to do with it. And you have to essentially play through the campaign, and you are unlocking on the way. I mean, you probably will wrap up the puzzle bit by the time you finish. But essentially it's almost like a treasure hunt kind of thing where you're with ciphers and with working out stuff, and eventually you put the actual, like you get a word of the actual character and you put that into the Cephalofair website, and it actually gives you all the cards and printed stuff, right? So that was the way it was.
It's really
done.
cool.
Very cool. I'm pretty sure a lot of people hated it because it was kind of like, oh, I shouldn't put it behind a puzzle or whatever.
Yeah, that's fair. It's funny that they had the foresight to put the puzzle in the game, but not put the character in the game. So it's like they put that puzzle in the game and maybe we're working on, because I mean, you can do that later, right? As long as you do it before Gloomhaven ships, right? Then you're okay. So maybe it's like a day one patch, you know, they do them and then they put things in the game that probably weren't there. So
imagine if the game went out and there was just like numerous errors in the puzzle. And you know what? I'm talking like there isn't, but there might have been, who knows? I didn't track any of this at the time, but like that would be a monumental F up where you had to do an FAQ or some kind of help thing for the puzzle that wasn't working just to unlock something that you may or may not use.
Yeah.
But either way, yes, we decided to unbox it because Gaz and I do know nothing about the character.
I mean, as the discussion just proved, I didn't even know how you accessed it. I thought it was just like hey, we made this thing, you can download it if you want.
Yeah, but I mean, yes. And yeah, we got together and we actually did an unboxing for it. So that will be out now. It's cool because it does our standard way of like going in with really, really fresh eyes because we have no even hint. Because I think it was a few weeks ago I was asking you and I just said to you, hey, do you know anything about the Envelope X or the Cross Swords character? And you were like, absolutely nothing. And I was like, yeah, good. And me neither. Let's unbox it. Just because, it's another character and why not? And I believe it's going to be in the 2.0, not the base game, sorry. There's a Merc upgrade pack, I'm not too sure, or a Merc pack that is coming out as alongside 2.0 as part of the crowdfunding campaign that has all you need, like proper versions of everything you need in there.
Like not print and play?
Not print and play.
Oh, wow.
Just
okay,
play.
That's cool. Actually in the game.
Yes.
Yeah, nice.
Yes. So, yeah, that'll be out now.
Yeah, go watch it. If you haven't, like, pause now and go watch that.
Now. No, don't pause now.
Why?
Do we actually want people to pause now?
What
if they're driving?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, true. I mean, don't crash. Pull over. Pause it and then pull over and then look up the other one and watch that. And then you can go add it to your next watch thing and make your own playlist and then you're good.
Yeah. No, I love it. Very, very good advice, guys. So let's head to scenario 85, Deadly Pastimes. Before I go into the whole setup and everything as per usual, we had a road event. Now, events are a little bit weird lately in that we've definitely been having road events and outpost events, but we haven't really been talking a lot about them. And the main reason is because they're not very interesting. There's been a lot of kind of really meh ones that have happened lately. Like we had one recently about monorail in Frosthaven, and you know the outcome was all like, do you want to do it? Do you not want to do it? You know, and it was just morale, and I didn't want to waste my breath on it.
Yeah.
But this week's one was actually very cool. Do you remember it, Gaz? Let's.
I don't remember it at all, but I do remember that it was really cool, and I remember why it was really cool. So
Okay.
it's like I remember the punchline, but not the joke, right?
Yeah, that's all you need. That's all you need.
That's it, you just make the rest up. You're like
That's
such
true.
and such.
So it was actually summer road event because we are in summer. 44. Now, will you remember that we came across a smoky hot ash? I've got to read a little bit of this text.
Oh yeah,
Some
no, I
kind of
remember
common
now,
robot.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the robots.
Yeah, it was something to do with the charge core. Which was it?
No,
It was
what
a
we did was
device.
we came across.
I've got the card. And
We
I'm
came
like,
across an old. Okay, so with the Unfettered had these like antenna Tesla coil things that were used to either communicate or charge them or do some form of thing for their network, right? And that's what we came across. One that was still in order.
Yep.
Now it's weird because this doesn't fit in with our flavor of the fact that they've all been shut down. So I guess it could. It's like, you come across one and it's still active. What are you going to do? But it was malfunctioning.
Yeah.
And I mean, we probably were like, oh, well, that's weird because like they shut themselves down because we killed them like assholes. But
not this one and not your character.
no, true, completely new characters. They're like, we don't know, we didn't do it. It's not our fault. So
Why are you not shutting down?
why am I not shutting down?
Yeah.
Because I'm sentient. That's what I remember when we were doing this, and we're like, oh, okay, it's a robot thing. Do we have like robot people? And we're like, no. I'm like, oh, damn. And then I was like, wait, I'm a robot. It's like, oh, I've become so self-aware that I didn't even remember I was a robot.
Good role playing, Gaz.
Yep, that's it. I'm on the drill, by the way, for those that don't remember. That's why.
Gaz is now on a drill. The unfettered mosaic or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
Metal mosaic. So the options were we can attempt to activate the device or we could break down the machine before it does more harm. And then, we had that chat about what you just said with robots. And then it's like, what else? What other keywords do we have? And then it turns out we couldn't have missed it even if we wanted to because there were so many other things that were lining up with not the correct answer, but with the one that we picked. And, do you want to let us know what we got for doing it?
Yeah. So there was two cool things I liked about this. One, the way that the reward was structured was a pick A or B, right? And one, like you said, one was try to fix it, one was dismantle it. Okay, so we're kind of like on that thing going like, if we fix it, we might get some kind of reward. Like, I think we've got a charge core, we don't. Or it might be something to do with that, right? And then the other one, dismantle, will be like, we're probably going to get like metal or material resources or something. So there was those two choices. Now that's just a pick one or the other, which is still interesting because at least you're deciding something about the outcome, but whatever. But then the next layer of that is having keywords to then work out whether the thing you want to do is successful. And then you got rewards based on that, which is cool. So I think the structure of that is a cool way of doing rewards. Of doing events. The reward we got though, right? So unique, right? And really, really cool. And I want more of it, but I'm glad that we don't have any more of it because it's so unique. That because we had all the right keywords and we chose to I don't know, hug it or lick it or something, we at the start of the next scenario, right? On turn 1, we get to pick a card from our pool of cards that we haven't taken with us, right? So you choose your hand of 10, 11, 12 cards, whatever you got. Pick a card from the cards that you didn't take and play it on turn 1.
Yeah. With
your turn 1 round, right? Yep. So you get that. It's like you got like supercharged by the Tesla coil or something. That's the law. It is now. It's canon.
Yep. We get to play an additional card on the first round of the scenario from our pool, which is very unique and very cool. Because all of a sudden we were going through our decks and asking questions about persistent, but then that it won't really work. But then, it just added that element of customization to how we were going to open up this scenario that we had very little info of what, we had to do.
Yeah, so I should add that as a caveat for people that haven't seen it and curious. Yes, so you play it, and then once you've played it at the end of the round, it goes back into your pool. It doesn't stay in your discard, doesn't stay in your lost. So if you play a persistent, it's only going to last for that round, then go away. If you play a pet, the pet's going to go away with a card, et cetera, et cetera. So you can't really abuse it. It's really just like get to play a free card on turn 1.
Yeah.
Which is, it was cool. I mean, for my character, it was kind of a bit shit because I've got such a low hand size that I don't have a lot of cards. But I know Phil made really good use of it. And I'm not sure what you and Mark did, but I think the idea is really cool. It's playing with a mechanic or a resource that you don't interact with normally,
No.
which is your non-chosen cards.
I really like being able to have that extra thought process. Because there are a lot of cards that we don't bring or we wanted to bring that, you can just get things started just as an opening elemental creation or something like that, right?
And I can see, depending on like the combination of when you get this, what characters you've got, the scenario you do, like you think about some of the ones that we've been like really under the pump from turn one, where like you weren't getting a prep round, right? Like, or we like, I'll do a half prep. Well, that solved the half prep because you'd be able to play your prep cards and still do a thing. Or, in the instance where you need to really dive on the threat that you've got there.
Yeah.
Being able to just go in and like, do a move and 2 attacks in essentially, could really level that out. So I think there's a chance that this could be like people could have experiences with this particular one where they're like, oh, the first round was just crazy.
Good point, actually. Yeah, a lot of different scenarios. You would hate to start a scenario with this event that had no enemies in the first room.
Yes.
I think. Unless obviously you help it to move, but that still feels bad when it's so fun, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of scenarios where you'd be like, but yeah. Yeah, they're cool. But no, well done, design team. I think that was a really cool, like all round.
And what Gaz is saying is he wants a lot more of it, like moving forward, right?
I'd love more things that do wacky shit like that as a once-off, right? Because it's not like affect the whole scenario. It's something happens at the start of the scenario. And
You would say it's a fairly big advantage though, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, it can be. Like for me, I was like, whatever. I think I moved a bit more. I did something. It wasn't interesting for me, but like the idea was cool. And I don't think it's too bonkers either. So yeah, stuff like that.
Nice.
I think it's cool to play with.
I think so. Hopefully, yes, there's more of that, but we're at the end of the game, so maybe we can just recycle this one. Oh my god, that's something we could do, and we can just mysteriously say, "Oh,
we found the same
road
Tesla
event
coil
44."
again.
It's so weird.
We just keep coming back to it before every scenario to give it a lick.
Lick the bot.
Yeah.
Previously on Frosthaven, so this was a job posting. A woman came to Glint. Glint's our favorite challenge dude, who is a good friend of Gaz's. And she went to him to get immediate assistance because her husband had told her that if he hadn't returned by the afternoon, she was supposed to go find help. I mean, sounds like a responsible dude. And she handed us a map of where he went spelunking. So that's, really cool. I like the idea of that. When I heard that, a part of me was just like, is this going to be like the reverse Titan?
Well, we got to climb down.
Yeah, like descending into, I don't know, some kind of a weird cave kind of thing. So
yeah, it felt kind of like an MMO quest, right? Like it felt like a WoW quest where they're like, you're in town or outside and they're like, oh, my kid got lost in the cave, go find them. And then you got to fight your way all the way through and they'll just be sitting there and then they're like, oh, hey, and then they run off, right? That's kind of what it felt like.
Why are quest NPCs universally useless in every game ever?
So that you feel like the hero.
Why does every game try so hard to make you feel like the hero?
Because that you're escaping from reality, right? Well, they're all normies. No one wants. It's like hey, you're a normie, and you come across other normies, and they're like, oh, hey, normie guy, I'm not going to ask you. I'm going to ask the hero behind you.
That's fair. It's just a shame that it doesn't work in real life. Like, hey, can you please take my bins out, neighbor? It's a quest, and you can raise your reputation with me if you do it. Is that not how life should work?
Well,
where everyone
are you offering rewards at higher reputation with Daddy?
Yeah, and the morale.
And a morale, yeah, that's it. That's the problem, is that the rewards aren't worth it.
So Scenario 85, Deadly Pastimes. This is from Mathew G Somers. Mathew G Somers we have run into in the past. Traditionally has made some very, very interesting scenarios that has people on probably split 50-50 as to whether or not they enjoy their designed work or absolutely loathe and hate it. And I actually found a bunch of various quotes from the community that I've just put together. So I'm just going to read a couple of them out now. My favorite Summers one is the one where you go around a huge map for 5 hours, because you recover a bunch of lost cards during the scenario by looting chests, is what one user said. Someone else has said, Somers' reputation is almost exclusively because of Oozing Grove. Now, I don't know Oozing Grove. I think it's a very famous, almost maybe Scenario 14 for Gloomhaven. And it may be one that you'll need to look up to get a memory of because you've played that more than I have.
I think I have an idea which one it is, but I'd have to look it up. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. My conspiracy theory is that Matt Somers is an alias Isaac uses for when a scenario idea is too out there.
I love it. That's so good.
And finally, someone else said, I've never met Somers, but he appears in my nightmares. So what does he have in store for us today, guys? Scenario goal.
Like, just the most bizarre and epic, and I don't know. Like, it was, without any spoilers on where we went, it was an experience. Like, I will remember this scenario forever.
Very memorable. Very memorable.
And I'm not saying that in a sarcastic, snide way of like, I will remember 14 forever. I'm like, I'll have fond memories of elements and times of this scenario, right? And that's not to say it was perfect and my favorite, but it definitely had memorable moments. So I think those quotes you read out definitely all ring true.
I think it's fair to say, like, according to these people, nearly every scenario he's done has been somewhat memorable. We had I think I was trying to remember. It was one of the Frosthaven ones, and I think it's the Ooze boss.
Yeah,
I think someone's designed that, which is great. He likes to do ones that you don't want to repeat, but you're happy you played it.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that fair?
It's like that really weird artsy movie that like had cool moments in it and made you think, but you never have to watch it again.
No,
right? The experience was enough. Yeah,
it just lives with you. So the goal of this particular one, the scenario is complete when all 4 goal treasure tiles have been looted and all characters have escaped. It's always that and the escape that kind of makes me go, and go back into the deck and move things around a little bit.
Yeah.
At the end of the round, we read a thing. Scenario effect, everyone gets wounded. I believe this was also last week, so I'm not too sure whether or not this is something that we're going to see every week leading forward. But some of us really, really don't care. And others are a bleeding robot. Monster combinations. We have Black Imps, so What Dog's family. We have Burrowing Blades. Oh, we need a Burrowing Blade pet. I'm surprised I didn't have one of those.
Yes, we did. And then the thing could be you like do the Beyblade thing.
Yeah, you target the furthest away thing, and then
everyone gets to like woo, woo, woo.
Yeah,
underground.
That'd be cool. Lightning eels and polar bears. Another weird, interesting mixture of things.
Yep. All classics.
Vintage. First room setup, we had a medium-sized room, square room with a bunch of obstacles. We had an elite bear and 2 elite burrowing blades, and there's also 2 doors. Love 2 doors, because it's one of those situations that we've mentioned. You open one door, you have a look outside, and you go, oh, this one has a door also. Let's go to the other one, all right? Unless you split up. Special rules. Whenever any character loots a goal treasure tile, all characters immediately recover one of their lost ability cards. And also, no figure can teleport between unconnected map tiles. Only set up the monsters in each room once, even if it's shown the setup multiple times.
But you didn't really have any idea what that impacted, but it was a good thing to remember.
Yes. So, with that information, what are your thoughts so far on getting lost cards back? And how much does this change? Like, what cards to bring? You know, that kind of thing.
I mean, briefly on the cards thing first, I'm playing a really specific kind of planned build with the drill at the moment, which I will elaborate on in a bit, but like later. But I don't really have that many options for cards, like because I kind of go through my combo and my cards that I want, and I only have a 9-card hand.
Yeah.
And so by the time I count all of those, I'm at like 7. I'm like, oh, okay. So, and then I realize there's like 3 other cards that are really good. I'm like, oh, I kind of got to take a couple of those. So by the time I fill out my hand, I'm usually cutting down to just get the cards that I want to be able to do the shit that I want to do. I don't really have that much option for like, and I don't have any burn cards. So it doesn't really like being an escape scenario, which is probably the other thing that I'd kind of, you know, think about this scenario was like, all right, we've got to escape. and we're going to be getting lost cards back. Is that because it's so long that we have to in order to do that?
I didn't even think of that. I didn't actually think of that. I thought it might have been because you're going to get booked so much that for the negating thing, right?
Yeah. So that thinking about the scenario and how we were going to do it, my thoughts which I didn't really go through because it's like, we'll just wait and see. You can't plan from one room. Is do we need to getting cards back just a cool thing to make us really powerful so we get to do lots of cool shit heaps of times? Or do we need to get those cards back because the thing is so long and so hard that we're going to be scrambling for cards and getting that one card back is good? Because it made me think back to the one with the Deep Terrors that they ate your cards.
Oh, that one, yeah.
You know, with the altar, right? So when you killed the altar, you got them back. So, I think it was like every time you got hit by them or rested or something like that. I remember there was a reason why they kept going away. The altars were there because it wasn't here's a power boost. It was like you're going to need to do these in an order because you have to get them back. Otherwise, you just can't do the scenario.
But you don't know where the next altar is going to be either. So you can't really go, well, it's okay. We've got an altar here. I can just start burning cards again. It's like, okay, cool. This is a little bit of relief. But until I see the next one, I don't know what this means. And it'd be the similar thing to obviously the exit, but also the 4 gold treasure tiles, which for all we know are at the end of a 15 tile thing in the same room, covered, like guarded by a boss or something like that.
And the other thing as well is we had 2 doors and an escape scenario. Like most escape scenarios, like go that way, right? Like they're very clear on you don't have options. And so it was kind of a weird one because from the start, it's like we just got to play it like a normal scenario, right? Like we can't think about it as we got to be careful, but we'll probably just got to explore a little bit. And it's summer, so it's probably wacky. We're probably going to be outside in the garden like in an hour, digging through for worms because that's part of the scenario objective.
When I saw you get your lost cards back from the gold treasure tiles, right? It got me excited because that's obviously very rare. It's very rare for anyone to be able to play a burn card twice or even 3 times or, God, even 5 times, right? It got me thinking about what classes would just see that rule and just be like, oh my God, I'm excited. And the one that came to my mind, just because I personally played it, was the media. Being able to use some of the cards with Swelter and some of the other Lost Burn cards, which are very fun to play with. And then it just got me thinking, or even Snowflakes. Snowflakes got some, not things like, not the persistence that hang around for a while and then drop off, like Crushing Weight and all that, although they will still work, provided you burn through them. But I'm talking like Snowflakes got a couple of big burn cards that I never took. Like Frozen Brand and a whole bunch of other just big AoE kind of spells. Are there any that you can think of from the characters you've played that would love that?
I mean, all of the Geminate cards, I guess. They're all burns, right?
Yeah.
That's a thing. Probably that comes to mind is Shuck on the Coral.
The one I thought you might say. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, but that just makes you as powerful as a kelp. So I mean,
powerful. Yeah. Because of the special rules of a scenario, you suddenly just get some meat. Not quite not quite go over because kelp has a second card that
Don't direct your hate at me. I know that Shuck is broken in its own way, but that's one of them. Thinking about other ones for actually for the Coral, there's one that was like the move 4 retaliate 2 shield 1 thing, which I used a lot to get in position. Like even that, being able to reuse that would be pretty cool. Cool. On times. So yeah, there's a couple. I can't really think about. There's pets and stuff like that with Prism, and there wasn't really anything spicy with the shards because that's what the shards was not spicy.
No, neither was Banisphere.
I can't think of anything with the Banisphere. Like maybe the banners.
I was about to say the banners.
Placing the banner and having it like follow around everybody and heal everyone. Then if it dies, just being like, don't worry, we'll just get it back again. Like next time we find a chest. Like that's not flashy, but that's like we saw how powerful everyone getting healed for 1 every single round was, right?
Which on paper I don't see as being powerful, but for some reason it just was so game changing. So
it was like how that whole era, like just as a kind of really quick side note, that whole era of that party, like it was so much support going on there. Like, and I feel it's funny that we pushed through on 0 there, but now we're pushing +2 without any of that.
I'm wondering how much of it is that we got a really good run of scenarios that really got to utilize the banners because there was very little movement involved. A lot of one-room scenarios and bosses and things like that. And that we just got lucky with that whole string. Whereas if you were running around with, let's say, her on this one, would it have been a slightly different story?
Yeah, it's that's another good point as well. Yeah, you probably would need to play around it a lot more. So yeah. Anyway,
all right, we'll go back to.
well, there was one other
that's
thing
right,
in the
we're
room.
recording a podcast. I forgot. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Not just talking about things that happened a while ago. So there was one other thing in the room, and it was very important, and it was very funny.
Is this
It was very.
Is this the letter on the rock?
There was a letter on a rock, not just any rock. What kind of rock was it?
It was a lick rock.
A lick rock.
It was a lick rock. So at the very beginning, well, actually, let me just. I'm going to finish. Do I have anything to finish here? We're running this on +2. We're running this on +2 difficulty, and we had Deddy on the level 9 Astral, Gaz on the level 4 Drill. I feel like that's just spoiled the retirement thing, but anyway, because like you're level 4 on the Drill, Mark's level 4 on his brand new Shackles. Thank you, everyone. And Phil is on the level 5 Blink Blade, so Phil must have retired. And then the section links. I'm not about to go through all them all, but there were 23, guys. 23 section links in this scenario.
Yeah, I suppose that is something to... And on the app that we use, that's what Deddy showed me. And normally there's like little purple boxes that you click, like, and it reveals that room. And this is, we've talked about, we don't look at the map beforehand or all that stuff, right? He showed me this and it's just a scroll. So we aren't going to go through all of that. For anyone who's like, oh God, I don't want to listen to this, we are not going to, right? Because that's just too much.
No.
Yeah, very fascinating and very much... There was an area of hesitancy of like, are we being trolled here? Like, is this just the worst scenario ever? And people are just like, oh, totally, like, let's do it, right?
Do you remember months ago, we unlocked this, and for some reason I opened it up in Frosthaven Scenario Viewer just to have a quick look at maybe the objective or whatever it was. And then I scrolled down the page and there was like a bazillion boxes and I showed it to you and it was kind of like, yeah, we're never doing that one. Yeah. When I was setting this up and seeing 85 and I was like, oh, everyone seems to like this. And then I saw all the boxes. I'm like, oh, it's this one. So going into it, I knew that it was going to be either, like you said, a troll kind of situation or, I don't know, just a lot of reading, like a crap load of reading. But yeah, we'll jump into our main talking points for the actual scenario, starting with the Lick Rock. There was a letter next to, on one of the obstacles that when you walk next to it, you discover it and lick it. And all of a sudden, you get regen, which is pretty cool. And
you could add the flavor to it. Okay, yeah, I'll add the flavor later.
Give me the flavor. That's it. You end your turn, you end your movement ability next adjacent to it, and you get to lick it.
Yeah. And this is a common theme through this whole thing, which we won't go through all of these kind of triggers, we'll call them, is there's this big long list of letters and numbers, and these are scattered through the rooms as you go through the whole scenario. So there's usually at least one, maybe two in a room, and they're a combination of like move next to, like
I've got a summary. I've got a very quick summary if you want.
Oh, okay, yep.
So the section links are for when any character opens a door, there are 4 of them. When the first time any character enters a certain hex, there are 4 of them. The first time any character ends their movement adjacent to a certain hex, there are 7 of those. The first time any character ends their movement occupying or adjacent to a certain hex, there are another 4 of those. And when any character loots a gold treasure tile, depending on which one, because there are 4 of those as well.
Yeah. So a bunch of things to read. So the first one we got was end your movement next to, which somebody did. I think it was Phil. Move next to. And it's like, oh, there's this luscious flowing stream coming out of this rock. So naturally you lick it, right? Well, I think you're supposed to have a drink, but we were like, you're totally licking it.
Totally licking it.
And it gives you regen, right? So the constant joke from that point onwards, because this is a central room, and the way that the whole map works is there's 2 ways, but it all kind of we came back this way a couple of times. It was always like well, make sure you go back, lick the rock on the way back through. Or if someone was getting really booked, like their life was getting low, or they're like, I can't get rid of this wound, it's like just go have a lick the rock.
Yeah,
just go back and lick the rock.
Which. It doesn't even heal you. It's just regen. Like, it's not even that amazing. It's good, but it's not like this thing's going to keep you alive. Funnily enough, it kept a few people alive. But
it was great. It was a very important rock. I feel like we should have taken that rock with us.
Yeah.
MVP was the rock. So
But yeah, I think we decided because we had two doors, Mark and I were going to go one way, Gaz and Phil were going to go the other, and that's the way it kind of stayed. Kind of.
Yeah, did it?
Well, initially, Phil came back.
Well, yeah, okay. So you guys went one way. This is how I think we're going to talk through this scenario. It's just like key things we remember being interesting, right? You guys went one way, and you opened the door, and there wasn't that much in there.
There was a gold treasure tile in there.
Well, yeah, but there was a couple of things in there, right? It's like, okay. And then a polar bear and 2 black imps. We're like, okay. So I was already kind of the north way, which was the other door. And I was like, oh, well, I'm going to go this way. And feels like, okay, I'll come that way. Like, yeah, sure, let's split up. Because there wasn't heaps. We're like,
no.
So I opened that door and there was only like 2 black imps in there. Right. So, and they were normal as well. Maybe one was elite, one was normal, whatever. So it was like, oh, okay. And then you guys were getting pummeled, right? And I was like, oh, shit. So I had to do this scoot all the way back, right? And I don't have a lot of big movement cards.
No, but you got to lick the rock. Then I got
to lick the rock on the way through. Yeah. Yeah. So I came down to help with that. And Phil went in, and then Phil got absolutely booked, right? I don't know I can't remember the exact sequence of events, but I feel like there was a karma bus. I feel like it was something along the lines of Phil got attacked and by I don't know a reasonable attack, like a 3 or a 4 or something like that, right? And he drew the -2. Okay, and so he's like, I got -2. I was like, oh god, because he always gets the low numbers sometimes. Like when he gets attacked, generally gets these low numbers. Like, okay, whereas you guys were in that bottom room just getting absolutely hammered. And he's like, oh no, wait, it's got disadvantage. Right, so he's going to be a bit greedy anyway. I know it's part of the rules, but like, oh, I got -2. I'm going to take another card from the deck, please. And the other card was a miss.
Yeah,
right.
We could have used that.
Oh, which we needed because we're getting hammered by this polar bear and these 2 elite black imps. And it's like, okay, cool. Oh, now the next black imp also moves to hit you. Oh, by the way, the first black imp poisoned you, even though it missed. Right? Okay, cool. And it does like an attack 4. Oh, okay. With poison, it's an attack 5. Oh, flip over card. Oh, that's a crit. Oh, wait, that's 10 damage. So you just went from taking no damage to 10 and feels like, oh, shit, I'm going to die. So I'm down now at the bottom room helping you guys going like, oh, fuck my life. Okay, I'm going to have to so luckily I just finished the cycle and I happened to be at maximum pressure. So I could use my, one of my things, I just get heaps of movement if I do it. And so I scooted all the way back up to the top room and went to help Phil. And I'm just like, I don't have a lot of movement. I need to set where I'm going and just kind of go that way slowly. And I'm just zipping backwards and forwards. So I remember that being an interesting beginning. And then without going too far into the details, I was in there, moved up a bit more, opened up a whole bunch of other rooms with a lot of monsters and went, I don't want to be here anymore. I'm leaving. So I ran away again.
Yeah.
So it was like there's a lot of just figuring out where I could actually go.
It's figuring out where you can go, but it's all these points of interest because that room that you opened up, or that Phil opened up that you were both in, you've got a door, you've got a rock with a letter on it. You've got and not a door. It's a weakened wall or something like that.
Yeah, with a letter on it. Yep.
And you got stairs. There's 3 points of interest. It's like a point and click Sierra game, like one of the old ones. It's like there's all these things that are inviting you to inspect it and find out what exactly it is. That then opens up more of the map, and all of a sudden you're moving boulders and you're like, oh, this works and that, and that's how the general flow of the scenario is every room you go into, there's a point of interest. There's a letter on there, there's the number on there, and they all go back to that massive list of section links. So you have to keep referencing that, but it's like, oh, do I have to stand on it? Do I have to be next to it? Oh, okay, cool. And finding all that. Going through all the sections. At one point you were just like, because I was struggling going through the app and trying to go through all the different boxes. And you were saying, can you just pass me the section book? And I'm like, mate, each box is going to be on a different page.
Yeah.
There's no intuitive way of doing this that I can think of.
So we're just trying to keep on track as well, because they weren't all moved next to, as Deddy read out before. 3 are outside of doors and treasure tiles. The other 3 are end movement on, or end your turn, I think. So there was all different triggers for them as well, and they're all So it was just keeping track of that. But you're right. Like every room you opened up, there was monsters, so there's things to do. But there's also these 2 or 3 points of interest. Where you're like, I
and
wonder what's going to happen when I do that.
and sometimes when it's on a wall, it's also like facing another tile. So it's kind of like you start to make think that it's all joined in some capacity, and it's not like you're not going to really run into a dead end or anything like that, because everything's going to lead to somewhere, which is interesting. So even though we split up at the start, and whether or not we split up was also up for discussion at the beginning, should we all run together or should we split up? Became a thing. On the note of the actual map, another point of interest that I want to talk about or something like that is the mob choice, specifically burrowing blades on a map like this, because they have their innate kind of thing, which is what they're known for, is targeting the furthest person and then Beyblading all the way over to that person. Sorry, burrowing underneath and not spinning to the person that they're trying to get to, which means these guys are flying all over the map. Absolutely over the map, all over the map. And there were several times that when they activated and they were doing that, I really could not be bothered helping you with trying to work out which way they were going. And you were left to counting up the hexes. All right, so I'm 27 away, Daddy's 14 away. Okay, so it's coming for me. But then after they've moved, they pull it again, a round or two later, and it's back to, these guys are doing drive-bys on the poor marks of the world who are sitting in the middle, just copping a slap to the face every time they ran past. So what are your thoughts on having Beyblades on one like this?
Oh, it's a perfect one.
I love it for this, but the admin part of it.
Yeah, the admin part of it is a bit interesting, and that's probably but I think it's like you split it up, right? Like, just make sure that it's not one person doing everything. You were doing a lot of the tracking section events and reading and doing all that shit, and so I think it's just other people carrying the burden. But yeah, it was good. Like, I thought they were a really good mob to have on this because they were moving really far. They were getting to people. It meant that if we all did decide to open a door and then just run away, there was a good chance they catch you because they can move so far on their Beyblade turns. So yes. Yeah, I think it was a good mob to have. And they were, one shield, do wounds. Like, they're pretty dangerous as well.
There became a point in the game where all four of us, I believe, got split up. You got tied into one room. I don't know what you were fighting, but you were in there for a while. It's a polar bear, and it just kept going really early.
A polar bear, yeah. So early. Like, this was like a ninja polar bear. For those who remember back, like, I don't know, 40 episodes ago, 50 episodes ago, like, I've had a personal vendetta with these polar bears. And I feel like this is like, I don't know, the polar bear that I hated, long lost cousin or something. It's like, I'm back and I've got ninja skills.
You could not go before him to save yourself. It was just the most amusing thing ever. And when he was going early, he was doing obviously impair and he was doing immobilize, and you just couldn't go anywhere even if you wanted to.
I got myself into this room and me and Phil went in and we killed some stuff, and there was one black imp left, and there's this bear that was just like legging its way over to me because I was the closest, and he went off to do another thing. So I was like, I can kill this and then I'll fight the bear. And I have a stun card and I could make myself go pretty early. So it's an attack with stun. So I just was like, that's fine because I'll be able to kill this thing because I'll be able to attack it and stun it. And then so there's two stupid things with this. One, I just couldn't go before this bear. And then two, I eventually was like, fine, whatever, I'll stun it for next round. You're like, they're immune to stun. It's like, oh my God. So, that was stupid anyway. It didn't matter if I'd gone first because I don't think I was going to kill it. But I don't know. This bear just, it was annoying because I'd gotten to that room and it stabilized because I think I got in there and Phil came in just really quickly. And kind of saved me a bit because I was like really low. And then I stabilized and got myself back up. And then this bear was just like, you're not stabilizing, boy. You're back on low. And I was like, oh, man, I got to lick that rock again. But it was so far away that the lick rock was like a distant memory. I may as well go back to Frosthaven. So yeah, it was just interesting. But yes, you're right. At that point, I was in that room. Phil was in another room. You and Mark were kind of together.
Phil was in another room against the black imp who was just out of range. When you bust a wall, it leaves behind difficult terrain. And this poor black imp, he was only pulling move ones, and you need 2 movement to go over them. He could not get over this thing. So he was just sitting there and he could see Phil in LOS and he was like, mate, you just watch it. And every round it was like, it's got to move 1. And it's like, no, not going anywhere. This thing became a running joke.
Yep.
The actual imp itself. What were you saying about Mark?
Well, you and Mark, I think we're probably closer together clearing the same, still the same direction that you guys had initially gone.
Yeah.
Because you guys were going through that. So yeah, I mean, what were your kind of key moments going through that room,
Well,
the first one and the next one, and then the
first room was
following?
fine. We got that treasure goal, and that was the other thing. When you get the loot, the treasure goal, you get an ability card back. So that was something that we had to time properly, because when we had discovered it early, no one had burnt anything yet. So it was kind of like, don't loot it yet. Wait till we burn stuff, and that became a theme for all of the loot treasure tiles. But we were in that room. We cleared the room, and then I went into the next one, and there was a polar bear in there, and I think 2 burrowing blades. So we had more burrowing blades, and there was a little puddle. And just thinking about your battle with your polar bear, I jumped over this obstacle to then go down into the puddle. And as I stood on the water, it revealed a separate tile that was just a hex tile with 3 points of interest on it and 2 lightning eels, elite lightning eels that were down there. And I've just gone, oh, okay. And the special rules for this was all of the hexes on that tile were difficult terrain because they were water tiles. So, for obviously the eels. So I was about to head down there when I saw it, and I didn't for some reason. I think I ran out of movement, or I didn't have enough to go down. And one of the eels blocked the hole for me to get down. And then the polar bear came around, and I ended up in this scissory situation. So while you are dueling with your polar bear, I'm dueling with mine, but I got a little eel nipping at me underneath. And the worst part is, unless I had a jump, I couldn't get down. So I got stuck, and I started to panic because I started chewing, like my health was getting chomped. And eventually, I must have, we short rested or something. I got my jump, and I actually made it over the eel and into the underwater bit. And due to the fact that it takes so much movement for the polar bear to come around, it ended up being easier for it to go after Mark. So it kind of left me alone. And I was like, hey, this is fine. I can deal with these lightning eels. I could not, by the way, because for some reason, I played a new infusion. Let's rewind even further. I respect my astral, not into a DPS. Sorry to disappoint. I literally respect, and I spent $90 to change out my level 9 card so that I got the new infusion, which is passively, I get to add target to all my attacks and my pets, obviously, as well. And I was like, you know what? I'm doing the sword build. I've got the opulent shoes now. We're going to go with Cassandra and Sophia, and we're gonna see what this is like, knowing that I will go first for monster focusing, and I might be able to keep them alive a little bit. And yeah, I forgot where I was going with this.
So you were going to fight these eels because you could clear them, right?
Because I could cleave.
Easy.
I could cleave, and I could hit one and miss the other completely. And every time, like I was trying to kill these things, that miss just kept coming up at the most crucial times, which means the lightning eels were still alive. Which meant also one of the rules is down there in the water if you end your turn down there, you have to discard a card. It was gross. It was absolutely gross down there, and to the point where I eventually touched the G spot in the middle of the room. There's a G token, and if you go next to that, you read another entry. And this one was you would get to recover 2 lost cards, and I was like, oh my god, this is going to keep me alive just a little bit longer while I'm running around with 2 health dealing with these lightning eels. Popped up the other side eventually, and funnily enough, this popped me back in the very first room, right next to Lick Rock.
Yeah,
which was like, oh. It's happened. We've gone full circle, and I'm back in the starting room where I think Mark is now backed into because he was fighting the polar bear, and I can see him over there as he's fighting them and the burrowing blades which are flying around. And right next to the water bit that I just came out of, all of a sudden spawns one of the gold treasure tiles, and it's just like, oh, I can lick the rock and I can loot the treasure tile, which is what we needed. Do you know what's funny? In this room, when I was looking at the notes for this and doing the research on this, there was also a number token on the south side of that wall that I didn't put there, that I didn't know existed.
Oh, really?
Which leads to one of the adjacent corridors. We didn't have to go through the water on the way back out, which is what we did. We could just break a hole in the wall.
And go up.
Yeah, you just break a hole in the wall, and you can make your way to where I think number 3, the gold treasure tile, which is after the boulder.
Yeah.
That's where it leads.
It goes up. Oh, wow. Okay, so we made it a lot harder on ourselves. Yeah, because it's the amDirt way. So, yeah, look, it's funny because there was a whole bunch of moments that I think each of us were in a oh shit moment, right? And the extra pressure on this scenario or this type of scenario is because it's an escape. We don't we don't know where the escape tile is. So we don't actually know which way we're going. And there was a point which I think even once Daddy had discovered this water tile, I was over the other side. Like we were pretty separated, and we were kind of like, okay, we've got one more room to discover, which I was near, and we have this last treasure tile we haven't looted. Surely opening one of these two things is going to go, here is the escape.
Yeah.
But is the escape going to be like up near me? Because if that's the case, we're kind of doing really quick math. It was like 20 hexes or something like that for like Mark and you to really get your way up there.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of movement that we're going to need to do. And we were starting to get a bit low. Plus, we got these Beyblades that kept bouncing around everywhere. And so it was kind of like oh shit, A, are we going to be able to escape? Right. Then B, you got people that are getting like trapped. Like you were a couple of points where you were just like, I can't, I'm stuck like between monsters.
I thought that it was a goner because it's also if one person dies, like everyone has to escape, right? So that's the added pressure. I mean.
Yeah. So when someone's getting really booked, it becomes this extra level of pressure. It's like, A, we don't even know where to go to escape. But B, if I die or someone dies, then we're done, right? We restart. So we got to keep that person alive. And because we're so spread, it was really hard to help that person. So it was really interesting in that there was a point on a few points, but like that kind of 3/4 of the way through where things were getting really tense, it really felt like we were playing like this 4-player multiplayer, like, you know, Left 4 Dead style survival game where we're all in different parts of the thing trying to do our part, right? Like fix things and get to the objective, and but we couldn't help each other and things were getting really dire. Like it kind of had a cool element of like someone's gonna drop the ball here and I hope it's not me.
No, it was me or Mark, because Mark was getting munched a lot as well, and I was on low health, he was on low health. We're both like crazily licking that rock to stack as much regen as possible. One of the points of interest that was scattered around that we found ended up, and bit of a spoiler for anyone who's following, I don't know, certain tracks, but there was a Brummix token or sticker hidden in this scenario, which in my head is kind of like, you could miss that, right? This is obviously
100%.
not a crucial thing to end game, finding all these things. In fact, as far as we know, we've already missed 2 of them in past scenarios, like without even realizing it. But it's a very interesting, bold decision to actually put something like that in here. Just in case it's missed, right?
Well, it is. It's in a side scenario that on paper looks very intimidating. So there's a good chance people look at it like we didn't go, oh, hell no, right? And then also it's one of like 20 triggers that you can kind of, you know, trigger as you go through. So yeah, it was. It's very interesting hiding something like that in here.
Yeah.
So
during your escapades, as you're trying to rush and find the exit, and every time there's a point of interest that we haven't done, you're like, it must be that way. You eventually went that way and you found a spot, and then Gaz actually fell through the ground because it's really, really, really heavy into another room, a previously explored room, which then revealed. I don't think it was a gold treasure tile. It might have been. I can't remember.
Nah, it revealed a letter in the corner,
which ended up becoming
the exit.
The exit, yeah, it was the exit. And it was really cool because it looked like you did it completely by accident because you fell into it. And then there was a mad scramble to get everyone to the exit, and everyone's using, like Blinkblade's using support abilities to get us moving over there. We decided, like I said earlier, the exit was actually fairly close to that room that I could have just busted through the wall, but we chose to go into the water, which is really bad because I think it's like five hexes across, 5 or 6 of difficult terrain, and I didn't have a lot of jump. I've got 1 card that gives me jump, but I think it was on the bottom of the level 8 sword, which I had spawned in Lick Rock room. Sophia went in that room, and then I didn't have my giant movement with jump, which was a questionable decision by me. But I like to do things a little bit hard. But yeah, we make our way towards the exit. And by that stage, once I realized, because I think a lot of it was on whether or not I could get there in time with what cards I had left, I think it was pretty smooth sailing after that.
I think so. Once we got you through that water room, which was tricky because they still had an eel in it that you couldn't hit. And then, but I think Phil had the opportunity of getting down there, and so he helped and deal with it and helped you move you along. But yeah, I think you're right. Once we got you through, because that looked like it was going to be the biggest issue, just because you like a jump and swimming through water, then yeah, we were pretty good,
Mm.
and we made
Uh,
it.
We did make it. We escaped. We met as we left and walked away a little bit. We found a nice little cozy camp. Because at the end of the day, we found a whole bunch of corpses. That's the gold treasure tiles. So the different corpses that we found in there. There was a burned Savas and there was a bunch of other stuff. We're looking for this husband, remember? Well, he's at this camp, and this campfire. He looks all cozy. He's having some food. He's having a great time. And it was just like, and we were all absolutely like fucked. And it was just like, he was like, oh, did my wife send you? Oh, yeah, I decided to not go spelunking and I went fishing or camping or hunting or something else instead.
Yeah.
And then we collapsed in a heap because we've just gone through all of that to look for him, where he was just having the time of his life.
So good. I love it. It's like, oh yeah, I didn't go in that cave. It looks real bad.
yeah, I think it was something like that.
Yeah. So I think that end was like, there was a really cool way to wrap up what that was, right? Like he wasn't dead, as he was alive, and he just wasn't there.
It should be the most rage-inducing thing, but it kind of wasn't. So it was kind of nice.
I think because it like wears you down with fatigue so much that by the time you get to the end, you have no energy to be angry. You're like, oh, look, I'm just glad you're fine. Like at the end of the day, I'm just too tired to be angry.
That's true. As a reward, we got 15 XP and a tick, which was helpful for everyone. That wasn't me.
Good reward.
Yeah.
No, except for you. Yeah.
Except for me.
Yeah.
Gaz, what were your thoughts on scenario 85? And if you hate it, why is it Stu's fault?
Oh, no, I think this was great. Like it was, again, we talked about, it's kind of one of those scenarios that I wouldn't want to play this one again. Okay. And I don't think you could actually, because this has so many spoilery bits in it that kind of dictate where you go.
Yeah.
That part of the thing that made this one fun was not knowing where to go, but each of those little trigger points was an exciting discovery. And whether it was loot, whether it was like, unlocking a new room, or kind of then these panic moments of like, where is the end? All of those things I think you would lose if you just went back to it now and went like, let's go. Because you could just plan where to go. You'd be like, oh, well, we're just going to do this, 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 and then we're done. It becomes more of a logic puzzle, because the monsters in there weren't particularly hard. Again, if you knew where you were supposed to be going. So I think, I really enjoyed it. It was very long. Like we started normal time and we didn't finish till almost midnight, which, is probably an hour and a half longer than most scenarios have been taking us.
Yeah.
And I don't think we played particularly slow either. I think it's just there's lots to do in this one.
Well, there are 9 tiles to put on this thing. And funnily enough, I'm tinkering with our equipment to get ready for a future recording. And I chose this one to try out a new setup. It was a big mistake because I couldn't fit the whole map in the camera frame, because most scenarios are like 2, maybe 3 tiles. This one was 9. The other thing was I had to keep getting up and setting up the next tile, which when you're doing it 9 times is going to take time.
Yeah.
And also all of the section events and finding out, what happens here when we unlock this and when we stand next to this and, what happens, that would have easily eaten into the time part of the scenario.
I mean, plus Beyblades. It went for like 20 something rounds. We're getting cards back as well. So we all played pretty conservatively as well, like because we knew it was an escape. So that's going to, again, maybe things didn't die as quickly as they would normally. So all of those things, yeah, you're right. They just take, but again, like I'm glad that we finished it. I'm glad that we did it. Again, I will remember it. And I think that there was a lot of really cool moments that did feel like, there's so many kind of, comparisons, like you said, the Sierra type games, or I'm thinking like a dungeon crawler type game, or an exploring adventure style game. Like all of those things, it felt like, and it did. It felt like, oh, I've discovered a new room. Now there's all these things I can click on and items I can get. Yeah. So I think from that perspective, it was great.
Yeah, on that note, it reminded me a little of Mansions of Madness 2nd Edition, which is a Fantasy Flight games, which is kind of like a dungeon crawl, but I guess it kind of is, but you got a tablet and you have to actually download the app, and the app you play alongside an app that actually has the map made and all that, and you similar to what what we have, but it's got the points of interest on the actual tablet. So you put the token to say this is a point of interest, it's a wardrobe, and because it matches the one on the app. And then when it's your turn, one of your actions is to inspect the wardrobe. So you click on the icon, you remove the icon from the board, and then it gives you a little, this is what happens. It may be a skill test, or it may be this and that. It reminded me of that. And like I said, the point and click adventure games that we kind of grew up with, which I think is really, really cool.
The other thing that is impressive is that they managed to do it, what they did, in a way that didn't feel super clunky. Like, it wasn't as clean as it, like, you know, I mean, I don't think of a way that you could fix it, not fix it, but make it more smoother. And we did say that there's a lot of section events and a lot of tiles, but it kind of still felt fine. Like, after we'd done 2 or 3 rooms worth, we had an idea about how this was going to play, right? We had an idea about, we've got these things on there. I had the book to at least look up what the trigger points were, so that it was a lot quicker from that perspective. And I think overall, like, the what it did and how it did it didn't feel like a chore.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important, because we've had, you know, a handful of scenarios through Frosthaven. There's lots of kind of feedback on this stuff, that some of the mechanics that they introduce feel like a chore to do, and that detracts from the experience rather than adding to it.
Yeah.
So I think they did a great job of making sure that these things made the scenario better and more fun to play.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a good one. Do you think it would have gone very differently if the 4 of us stuck together?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if we do it if we stick together.
That's what I'm thinking.
I think we maybe run out.
Unless
I
you
don't know,
burn the
honestly.
rooms fast enough, because all 4 of us are there, and that helps us move along. But it's almost like if I had to give advice to people, I'd almost say don't stick together. Like, split up into at least groups of 2, and don't send 2 of the DPS one way and 2, like, a brand new Shackles and an Astral who has no idea what he's doing, another way.
I mean, the thing is, some of the decisions we made, like, me and Phil went up and opened a room that opened up to a polar bear, 2 Beyblades, and an imp, and we ran. Like, so I think it changes if we go, and those were the monsters that were running around for ages. Like, that polar bear is the one that chased me down the stairs, and the Beyblades were the ones that ended up, like, kind of ganging up on Mark when he was kind of in a weird position. So it's, if we had all gone together and say we go up, we just clear that, right? Because that's just a room of mobs to clear. So again, it changes the way that you do it all. But yeah, it's interesting. I think the experience we got from splitting up is what made it memorable as well. Because we had everyone doing their own little, trying to solve their own little puzzle and having one-on-one duels with different monsters. So
this is the scenario that you want to ask other people how they went with theirs, to get an idea of those kind of moments, those key moments, because I guarantee that, like you said, everyone's going to have those different experiences in here and the different ordering of doing things. So
yeah,
no, awesome.
Yeah. One other thing which we can talk about later, but also made this one very interesting for me, was I was trying to do my trial.
Oh yes. No, we will definitely cover that. I also want to talk about what I was seeing as well at the same time. What did Mark think? Mark said that was long. Very interesting. Rather challenging, but long, with, I believe, 14 O's. Okay. I can't imagine, Mark, I can't imagine that would have been like for any less than 4 players. You would need some serious sustainability in classes to make that work with 2 players. I didn't think of that.
Ooh. Is there less tiles to?
I don't think so. I don't think that's a thing.
All right. Just note there, if you've done this with 2 people, tell us why you hated it.
And why did birds help?
Yeah.
I'm just seeing whether or not. No, I'm pretty sure. Like, at 2 people, you have less creatures to fight, and that's probably the main thing.
Yeah, so maybe it just becomes a more of a move around and discover everything. I mean, you're definitely not splitting up if you've got 2. So yeah, interesting.
He finished up with, overall, I think it was pretty fun. I wouldn't want to do it again, but I'm glad we had the experience, which is cool.
That sounds like that's just like engraved on Somers. Scenarios, right?
Pretty much everything he touches. Yeah. Phil didn't provide anything, but I noticed with Phil on the Blink Blade, and you made a comment earlier, is that he's playing it differently. He's doing different level up choices, which is really cool and really exciting to see because we are noticing he's playing it very, very differently. A lot of movement, a lot of element creation, which is weird. But yeah, he seems fairly confident with what he's doing, and I'm really enjoying seeing him play it in a slightly different way.
Yeah, well, he played that scenario really conservatively. Like he was constantly, I think, even at the end once we picked up the last card, he didn't have. He was like, I don't know. I had to rest before we did it because I didn't have a card to pick up. So because he didn't play his extra breakneck speed, he didn't play his burn card. So yeah, like he did that one for the long game and did really well. So
yeah. Is this an Army scenario?
I don't even know.
He's unbelievably dead. Like he has to be.
Although, I mean,
no, you always look at the positives in Orby. You're always like, no, there's a chance that.
Does he get to lick the rock?
No, I don't think so.
His characters, no, he's dead.
Although, now I'm doing it. Because you can negate damage with losing a card, and a lot of the scenarios getting cards back, there is a world, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
I just feel he's going to get minced by Burrowing Blades and eventually lock horns with a polar bear, and yeah.
Yeah, that is the problem. Yeah, you can't control that. So yeah, it's not a good one for him.
I was looking, I haven't done community in a while because a lot of these scenarios that we've done, there's not a lot of discussion around them. This one got discussion, just a little bit.
Interesting.
While I was looking for it in a thread, I found one snippet from what someone was saying, and I'm not going on a rant about it, but it kind of I just zoned in on it, and I just have to talk about it just a tiny bit. Yeah, it's like last time, right? But not as bad, not as long. The person said, I never understood the mania to make everything even out to neutral. This is, I think, about Somers and about this particular scenario. I like that some classes in Gloomhaven were wildly unbalanced. I loved, and there's something I want to talk about with this. I loved having turns line up and just go wild and do amazing things. One of the funnest gaming night moments we ever had was completing a boss scenario in 2 turns. One character did 2 huge hits and we were done. Still years later, this is one of the few game nights we still talk about. Could you imagine? Would you feel the same way if we did a boss and we ended it with in two turns? Would it be like one of the funnest nights?
It'd be memorable.
Yeah.
Like,
totally.
Yeah, like, I mean, exactly. I mean, if that's referring to Gloomhaven, like, I mean, I know a group that did the same thing with the Berserker. They one-shot the boss, like, completely from 0 health to, like, maximum health to 0. And they were like, oh, wow. And that happened very quickly in they were talking about it. So it's definitely memorable. I don't know positive, best experience I've ever had.
No, not at all. If that was to happen, I would burn the game.
Well, I mean, we kind of felt that with the mini crab boss.
Totally, and we hated that scenario.
Yeah, it was dumb because it was basically like, Phil can kill this in like 3 or 4 rounds. Like, let's just do that. And there's no reason to engage with any of the other mechanics of this scenario or mobs. And we talk about it as a way of like, this is not the experience that we want to be having again.
I don't want to invite you guys over. I mean, I don't anymore anyway. You guys just invite yourself over. But I don't want to sit there, have everything set up, and let's go for it to be over just like that. And then be like, oh, now I have to change everything. Are we doing another one?
Again. Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Do another outpost phase that everyone hates, right? Like,
yeah. No, it was just something that caught my eye. Someone else said that we have a 3-player party that literally could not complete scenario 85 due to a mechanic in the scenario requiring an ability that none of our characters had access to. We decided to just change the rules because the scenario was already extremely long and not one that we wanted to repeat with a different party just due to this. And then someone asked, "Oh yeah, what?
They didn't have push."
Yes, no push or pull. Someone asked what their party makeup was like, and they said Bone Shaper, Prism, and Pain Conduit. Shackles. And yeah, they're with no cards that either push or pull available. And I'm trying to think back to Shackles. I'm like, oh, did they not? But I can't actually remember. I don't necessarily think so.
I mean, that's a pretty wild party as it is. Like, that's 2 summon heavy classes and something that just wants to. I mean, I'm not saying it's bad. Like, I'm sure it's like like wild fun, but that's a pretty stacked, like, and unique style party.
Later on in the thread, someone said that despite having that as a thing, if you explored properly, you would see that there was definitely a way to do it. And this brings me back to my token that I missed in the Lick Rock room behind the rocks. That's what gets past the boulders. So
yeah, okay, you're right. Yeah, that is a good point.
Because when I was reading it, I was like, oh yeah, if you don't push or pull, how can you complete that? But it's like, is this play tested at all? Yeah. So no, it definitely is. Okay, where are we at? All right, let's talk a little bit about the retirement. All right, so I have decided to retire. I was 10 XP off level 10, if that's a thing, and I have just fully decided that I am happily done with the Astral, and we don't... Oh, I didn't even... Astral hasn't been played other than me. So I should have put an entry into the thing. We didn't do that because for some reason when characters, like all the characters that have been retiring, well, some of the characters that have been retiring lately have like not needed to go into the section book or, you know what I mean? Like in the calendar for their returns.
Reading the thing. And okay. Well, I don't even think we did the outpost phase, did we?
Oh, because it was like 12 o'clock?
Midnight. Yeah, I think we just were like, and I'm done.
Yeah, right. No, we didn't. No, fantastic. Yes. So I pre-retired, ultimately. And I didn't really know what... I'm definitely putting together a review and a video for the Astral. I'm very much looking forward to it. It's going to be interesting. I have to just put my thoughts down and as clearly as I can. So, yeah, just so I don't upset people or anything like that at all. But I was thinking about my next character and I was going to poll it, but then I was like, looking at the available ones and looking at the teams that we have now with Drill, with what are your synergies again? Frost and ice and fire, right? And Mark's now on Shackles, which is fire and air. And Phil makes all those elements, apparently. So I was like, oh, we've got a lot of synergy already. Is there any way I can also make a fire dude? And I was looking at, who the fire dudes were. And apparently Media has been played twice already and once already by me. So I probably don't want to play that again. As much as I'm actually kind of tempted, but I want to stick to playing, never playing a character twice, at least for the purpose of for reviews and talking about them, etc. So I've decided to play the Geminate, which was something I was super against.
He did it, people.
Super against, and I would never be caught dead with it. And I think we've brought it up many times over the last year and a half. And I've actually decided to bite the bullet and try it.
We did it. Well done, team. I just want to thank all of the people out there who planted. I feel like this is an inception thing, right? Like it's just been mentioned so many times and talked about. We've even had people say, no, don't do it at the worst. Maybe we got in his head about like you couldn't even do it. Like you're not good enough. Like it's no, and he says somehow
not good enough.
It's just brewed over like 18 months worth of this. And now we're finally there, people, and we're going to get to see it, and he's going to love it.
I just figured I may as well play the worst character in the game right when we're ending the campaign and the game so that I finish the game with a terrible feeling and taste in my mouth. So that when we eventually record our review, I just shit all over the game.
Well, I mean, it can't be any worse than your experience with the Astral, right?
Oh, come on. It wasn't that bad. I definitely... didn't no, I'm not going to spoil anything.
No,
even though it's really not obvious how I was feeling about things there.
Yeah,
but yeah,
so, looking forward to it. And I mean, to the point of the Geminate, that was when I was picking what will probably be the last character I play for this our campaign. I was tossing up between the Drill and the Geminate because I want to go back to the Geminate. I want to see some of the cards, and it's like one of those starter classes that I want to see how it stacks up.
Yeah,
because we talked about this a bit, and it'll be very interesting. We'll probably discuss this over the next few weeks. Is that we kind of talked about how a lot of the starter classes actually felt quite good as classes, and it didn't suffer from the Gloomhaven issue of like the 5 starters were starters, and then everything else was heaps more fun. I don't know where we land on that now because we've seen like the Blink Blade, I think, matches up, but we've also seen the Drifter. And I mean, from watching that again, I don't know that if it really was like it felt like as much fun as the other classes. And I know that people drift like there's heaps of cool things you can do. But so I'm interested to see if the Geminate does or doesn't. because we're not going to see the Bone Shaper or the Deathwalker again. So,
I was very close to Deathwalker, but the idea of moving poop around the room sounded like not fun. I'm sure it is. It's just, I didn't. And then Dark Synergy. I like the idea of playing with some elements with you guys. We got a taste of that the last few scenarios, especially with shards and Astral and Kelp, and now, with the fire and thing going on. The other option, obviously, is to go ice and help feed you ice, which I can still benefit from. I don't particularly want to play the Fist. I would play the Snowflake again, but it runs into an issue of I don't want to play the same character twice.
Yeah.
So, it's a bit funny there, bit funky.
No, it's exciting. I think it's gonna be really cool.
Yeah. So I need to find someone who's really good at the Geminate and pick their brain. So Iron Wine, I'm gonna go talk to you, and you can tell me how you went with Geminate. I need to come up with a Geminate name.
You need to come up with 2 names.
Oh,
because each form was named.
Well, but because of the word Geminate, I was gonna go with like Detonate, but like that's too close to where Deddy came from, so it doesn't make any sense.
That's it, dude. Detonate and Nader Det.
Detonate and Nader Det. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe I'll have to do a poll for the name. So let's finish up with our trials.
Yes.
So, do you want to talk about your trial?
Experience? No. What was your experience of my trial?
This guy's doing weird shit right now, and I'm like, are you alright? I mean, how long have you been doing this?
Okay, trust me.
Let's try. It has to be his trial. Okay, that's all. It was just random. It was trying to be super subtle.
I was like,
I saw him do something, and I'm like, hang on a second, and then I'm looking, and then I'm like, that doesn't look right. And he was trying to avoid eye contact.
Yeah, and then he started laughing. Okay. So yeah, it actually was not. Alright, so what are you doing?
So about halfway through this scenario, Gaz, I see Gaz's hand in the corner of my eye in my peripheral vision. And his hand, right in front of Gaz, Gaz does our battle goals. So during the setup, he does our pets and our battle goals. I do the challenges and the general setup. We've got our roles kind of between us. So the pile of battle goals is in front of him, just in front of his play area. And his hand keeps going over to it. And he grabbed one and he just sort of looked at it and he was like, and then he put it into our card holder, which is built into the table. And I've kind of gone, oh, that's a bit weird. And I've sort of leant forward because he's on my left. And I could see 4 battle goals. And I'm like, oh, that's not normal. But also, he hasn't said anything about this. So I immediately tweaked that, Gaz wouldn't just cheat like this and just randomly start looking at other stuff unless he's that bored because of how long this is taking. And I made a face. I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to bring attention to it, just in case other people at the table then, and we all started paying attention to it. But I started laughing because I was staring at you. I wanted to catch your eyes. I wanted you to look at me. And you looked like you were holding back. You knew I was looking at you and you didn't want to make eye contact. And you finally did. And then I cracked up laughing.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Because I saw you see me. Because I'd been doing it the whole scenario. And in actual fact, I've actually done this over a lot of scenarios. This isn't the first time.
Okay.
So, because I'm trying to be super secret with it. And I saw that you saw me and kind of gave me these weird side eyes, and I tried not to look at you, and I did though. And then because I was like trying not to say anything, I cracked up. And unfortunately, it was right in the middle of Mark explaining his turn, and I get retaliate 3, and then we both burst up laughing, and I'm like, oh fuck! I'm like, it's actually not you. It's nothing to do with you. And he was like, I don't believe you. I was like, now I have to explain this. This is what I didn't want to do. And then you were just like trials things. Like yes, and it's like okay, cool, all right.
Trial scenes, leave it alone. The trial was called Trial of Trials, funnily enough. Do you remember exactly what it said, or do you want me to reference the card?
Yeah, in essence, it's at the end of any turn in which you take damage, you draw another battle goal. And you complete, if you complete this scenario, you have completed this trial when you have completed the scenario and completed or achieved at least half of the battle goals that you have drawn. And the battle goals only start their accounting, I guess, from when you draw them. So if it's never kill an enemy, it's not instantly failed if you've killed an enemy and you draw it. It only counts from when you actually draw it, which was very interesting with some of the ones that I drew. Now, part of the problem with completing this one was that I got wound heaps of times. This is why I was very keen to get rid of my wound all the time. And I kept being like, can someone get rid of this wound?
Yeah,
like,
you said that a lot. And I was just like, mate, it's
you've
just
got
a
an amulet.
wound.
I'm like,
calm down.
It's like, you've got an amulet. Just turn that card sideways and it goes away. I'm like, I don't want to say why, but I kind of want it gone before it's my turn because, like, it was fine in turns that I knew I was going to get punched. For example, the bear. When I was hoping to go first and stun it, one of the reasons was because I didn't want to draw another battle goal. Anyway, I progressed through. I didn't think I was going to complete it because by the end I had 10. And I knew there was some sitting there that I was going to be able to do. There was a couple that I just marked off that I couldn't because I'd either failed it already. I was just like, I'm not going to end up like that in that space. But I kind of assumed I wasn't going to complete it. I was still keeping track of it. And then, I at the end when I counted, because there was a couple that were like end the scenario, like not looting or with 13 experience or more, which actually landed on 13 experience at the end, which was really good, was 5 and 5. So I had completed 5 and I'd drawn 10. So it was, and I think I mentioned it a few weeks ago, but the reason that I couldn't complete that one on shards was that I had so many, like, I had a couple of cards on shards that would do damage to myself to get tokens. And I was like, I am not going to go through a whole scenario. Because this was an easy one if you just didn't do anything, right? Like, draw a battle goal that says, I don't know, don't kill an enemy. And be like, sure, I just got to do nothing for, like, the whole scenario and I'll do this.
Yeah.
And because I was ranged, it was really easy to not get attacked and all this kind of stuff. So there was a world where it was going to be fairly easy on that character, but it was also going to be boring. And I'd already done one on the shards that was really made the one where I was only allowed to attack the enemy with the lowest standee. That made my whole game on shards really very skew-if, and I was kind of like, I didn't enjoy that scenario as much as I wanted to because of that. It was kind of cool because I had to solve it, but there was a lot of turns where I was just like, I really can't do anything because I'm going to wreck this trial. I didn't want another one. And because we'd started to play on harder difficulty, right, it also meant that me not doing anything at all, especially once we'd unlocked the fact that I could do a lot of damage, it's going to be really rough. So I was like, I'll wait to do it on the drill. I think I got there in the end.
It was really, really well done. Like, that seems, you've copped some really brutal trials and you've done a really, really good job with handling them, but also maintaining the secrecy about it and just making us accept, just don't worry about it. Like, this is just, you know what you're doing. You'll be fine. It's not impossible. You can do it.
I think really early on you saw me do a thing. I think, or I might have mentioned that I was like, trial, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, but I'm not going to say anything. And you were like, yeah, okay, cool, whatever. And I was like constantly trying to figure out the time because it was end of round, right? So I had to figure the time when it was kind of everyone was focused on like the screen of looking at the monsters or doing something that I can pick up a card, pick up a battle goal and put it with my pile that no one's going to notice. So I had to time that kind of sleight of hand as well. So yeah, it was interesting.
No, I like it. Very subtle. Like, you really got away with it for many weeks. It was just I must have been bored at some stage, or I must have been just staring into space because I'm surprised I caught it. And then to know that you've been doing it for quite a few weeks is pretty cool. Our friend Mark also completed his trial. His trial was called the Trial of Patience. And it's really not his forte, by the way. He's one of the least patient people I know. Yeah. But it says you passed.
This was one of the hardest ones that he had.
Being patient, yes. Because you have passed this trial when the trial deck is empty and you were the last character holding an unfinished trial. I think this is a cop-out trial.
A massive cop out.
Okay, good.
Did they run out of ideas? Like they're like,
Ah,
we've only got 11. Like 11, and then someone's like, what about, like, oh, we just can't think of any other ideas. Like, just put that in. Because
when he revealed it, I was kind of like, oh, okay, that's a bit disappointing.
isn't it always just, I mean, the trial's always just going to be one person has a trial that's not doing anything, and then it just is completed.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know.
I think what would make that one better was if there was some kind of weird negative, not too harsh, but it would be like I know this is really annoying because you're waiting for someone else to do it, but you need to be patient while they complete it. But there was I guess there was no annoyance for him other than like, we can't finish our trial deck. But I don't know if there was some kind of thing that was triggering because his wasn't completed.
Yeah. It needs a little box in there that says, read this to the rest of your table. If at any point the person holding this trial is not patient, he takes 3 damage, similar to Mark's thing, right? Because Mark would have failed that immediately. He'd be dead, right? Just so that we could be like, we don't know what he's doing. We don't know what it's about, but we've been given strict instructions that whenever he is being impatient and being cranky, he's to take 2 damage or something like that.
Yeah. But so the trial people that designed it, that's the team that did the events and all that, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, hit us up if there's a reason why that was the last one or if that got changed or anything. Because I'd be just keen to know from a design perspective because, there's 12, I think, 12 trials?
I thought it was 10.
10, there's 10 trials, so yeah, there you go. 9 of them have been really cool. I mean, really love the trial system. That one just seemed to be like, oh, okay, well, we're done, I guess.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
May as well have made it 9 trials.
Yeah, 100%, right? Like, it didn't make any difference because that one, yeah, anyway. It was just interesting. But the reward, are we going to talk about the reward?
We absolutely are.
Okay.
So you go back to the whole revelry and, weird stuff happens. I can't remember from the story point of view because I don't take a lot of it in. But all I know is that we are instructed to open up envelope A. And I'm like, oh, crap, that's right. There's another envelope in the box, but it's got a letter on it. And I just was like, I'd just forgotten about it completely. And the minute I read that, I was like, oh my God, we get to actually open an envelope. This may be one of the better, sessions where we get to open up something because we've unlocked nearly everything. So there's still more surprises in store for us, Kaz. And what was in the envelope was the upgrade for the building. So the Halls of Revelry, which didn't have any upgrade on it. So in the actual envelope is the actual upgrade. So you can't actually build the upgrade. This is what gives you the upgrade. And along with that comes some rules during setup, right? During the actual scenario setup, there's an area that says choose favors before going into a scenario. I'm like, oh, what does that mean? So I had to look up what that meant. And then I found the actual section in the rule book, which is actually towards the end. It's called Appendix F, favors. And essentially what happens is at the start of a scenario, the party can spend up to 7 favor points. So you're given 7 favor points to then spend to activate favors. So each of the available favors can be activated multiple times as long as the party has enough favor points to spend. The effects of activated favors only last for the current scenario, which makes sense. So far, so good. Each favor point that you spend, though, must be accounted for by removing a -1 card from the monster AMD for this scenario. However, you can spend 2 favor points and can be accounted by removing the -2 card from the monster AMD instead. So here are the favors. There's knowledge, all right, which is cost 1 favor point. Each character will gain 3 experience if they achieve their battle goal, which is pretty cool, especially for you lobies. There's wealth, which is 1 point. Each character will gain +1 gold per coin on their loot cards. So yeah, if you need money, we can do that. Strategy, 1 point. The party chooses a monster ability deck and draws 2 cards at random, removing 1 from this scenario and shuffling the other back into the deck. This can only be done once per deck. I don't remember reading that one out when we did it.
It was very late. I do remember that one, but it was after midnight by the time we were reading this. So,
so can you remove the crit?
No, not AMD, monster ability deck.
Oh, ability deck. That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, we did read that. Yes.
Interesting enough, just on that one, is that this for say you picked wave throwers, right? And you were like, oh, I'm getting rid of their wave thrower thing, and then you draw 2 cards that aren't the wave thrower a summon thing.
You've
and
just
then
made it worse.
Yes. So if you have a particular monster that you know there's cards you don't want in there, this could be worse for you because you're gonna maybe make it so you see them more often.
You make the deck smaller, yes. Interesting. Actually, yeah, if you luck out and manage to remove the reset card or one of the 2 reset cards, that could be a major
that's another
thing.
Maybe that's what you feel like with a monster ability deck that isn't gross, right? Maybe you're just trying to look for one of the 2 reset cards so that you can slow them down.
Yeah. There's capacity. Capacity is for 1 favor point. Each character may bring 1 extra small item into this scenario, but they must have 1 unused small item at all times during the scenario. I like the fact that there's that caveat there as well. Discovery, 1 point. The party chooses a material or a herb resource that is not included in the loot deck for this scenario. Add 1 random loot card of that type to the loot deck for this scenario, which, I mean, if you're at this stage and you're really dying for that herb to complete that original PQ that you got at the start of the game, you got a lot of problems. I mean, look, I'm not saying that's not impossible. I'm sure there's someone out there right now who's nearly finished the game who's still on their first PQ.
Sure.
Finally, there's potential, which is worth 2 points. Each character may add 1 ability card from among those they have passed over when leveling up to their pool for this scenario. If they do, they must remove a different card of equal or higher level from their pool for this scenario. What are your thoughts on this brand new thing that we've just been hit with, despite thinking there was no more surprises coming?
Yeah, it's a cool, it's like a roguelike thing, yeah? Like a mutator type. Hey, you can play and it's going to change this stuff because they're cool little bonuses, but they're not other than... None of them really just make you better. Like none of them are +1 to damage or some things like that, right? And they all have kind of small... kind of safety net, for lack of a better word, on them to stop that. So even the pulling another card from your pool, right? You can't take 2 level 9 cards because you have to remove equal or higher. So you can't even break the character that way. There might be cases where maybe trading in a level 8 card for the other level 7 card because the level 7 card's really good. But again, you could have just chosen it when you leveled up anyway.
Yeah.
Right. So none of that is really giving you like this uber advantage. But on top of that, anything you do choose, you now are removing -1s from the monster deck, and now you're just getting hit harder, which directly impacts what you do. Like,
love it.
Yeah, it's a really cool push your luck element of, and I can see it being a, hey, we want to level this person or we want to get some more gold. I'd almost argue that maybe some of the benefits aren't interesting enough to want to do that too much.
Yeah.
So because I don't know if like we're really going to be dying for 1 extra gold per, or 3 extra XP for completing the battle goal. And they're some of the lower ones. So yeah, it's a very interesting mechanic, and I think that it's cool that it's optional.
Yeah, I do wonder about whether or not it's going to be game breaking to have access to that from scenario 1. Like. With the XP one, right? Because you are definitely making it harder by removing the thing. So if you want a little bit more, you want to fast track, it's a bit of XP going for completing your battle goal, by the way. It doesn't just happen. But to be able to customize it a certain way early, I can't see that as being game breaking.
Yeah.
Because it's not powerful enough.
Yeah, and also things like, 3 XP per tick as well, because if you get a 2 ticker, that's harder to do. It's the same reward, like just little things like that. And having
you just get 3 XP if you finish your battle goal.
That's what I mean. Like, yeah, like having access to it earlier, and being able to do that could mean, but if you made it per tick, you kind of being able to like, let's boost everyone's XP. Yeah, so it is. It's an interesting one, and again, it just puts me more in favor of this idea that some of these cool buildings that unlock these cool rules, they almost need to be seeded through the game so that you're guaranteed to get them at a certain point. Maybe you don't get the specific one at a specific point, but it means like at a point, and I don't want to, just as an example, at the end of the first year, you're going to get the stables, you're going to get the Hall of Revelry, you're going to get the something,
use the calendar.
right?
Yeah, use the calendar.
And it kind of sucks a bit because I get it. It's cool that it's all super random. And I reckon that if you averaged out everyone's experience, you probably, your middle chunk of 68-70% of people are probably getting the right experience with that. But there are going to be outliers that get these things either like get them really late or at weird times.
Yeah.
And then that experience is poor because of it. So I don't know, maybe you're winning more than you lose overall. So it doesn't really matter.
No, you're right. Do you think we'll use this much?
I don't know.
I kind of want to use the monster one.
Yeah, I think what we'll do is we'll probably think that we're really clever and we'll use the monster one on a monster when we do a scenario, and then it's gonna backfire and be like, ooh, like that was a bad idea. But yeah, I don't know. There could be instances where someone's like, hey, I really want to try this other level card, or going into a scenario, if like your other level 4 card is like a move loot card and you're like, hey, we need to do looty stuff. Cool, I can take that. That could be worthwhile.
There is one of the favors, Discovery, which is the one where you can pick a resource or something like that. Snow Thistle, guys. Snow Thistle seems to be in short supply. And apparently everything good in the game uses it. We've only just recently discovered. So there you go. There's a way to get more Snow Thistle.
But even that, isn't the loot deck 20 cards?
Yeah.
It's like 1 in 20. Yeah. So it's like, oh, we've put 1 in there. Like it. Yeah. Anyway. No, look, I think it's a really cool mechanic. We haven't played with it at all. It'd be interesting at the start of the scenario to have a quick scan over the list to see is anything on this interesting. I mean, look, at the very least, I think we probably just do the Battle Goal XP one, because taking a -1 out and giving everyone 3 extra XP when we're all now leveling again.
Oh, yeah, I'm included in that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like now that all of us benefit from it, I think that's
I do like that it's tied to the battle goals, because a lot of the times we're kind of depending on, I mean, when you create a new character, you obviously want them, but it will further, because you don't want to miss out on 3 XP when other people are getting it. So I think it'll bring a little extra spice back into things, just a little bit. Yeah. We will wrap it up for this week. Join us next week as we go back to our scenario list. Actually, on the scenario list, we looked at, I think it was Underground Station, which is there's a bunch of scenarios straight after that, and it was designed by Alexander Theo Harris. So he did a wonderful job with one of the lines that we did that you really, really loved. I can't remember which one, but we loved it.
Dude, we're talking about expectations. That my expectations are through the roof now. I just have to convince myself that it's going to be garbage, like, because they couldn't possibly have made 2 really good, like, chain scenarios. So there must be one really good one, which is what we did with Prison Break, and this one must be terrible.
Yeah,
it's got to be. I have to set that expectation so that I'm, again, like, overawed.
Maybe the scenario's on patience, and if you've completed the ones after it. I'm just looking at the shortcut from the end of the trial thing, like the last one.
Yeah.
So yeah, we will basically consider doing that one. I think that'll be a good one to do. So, in the meantime, I have been Daddy. I have been joined again by Gaz.
And remember, when it comes to rolling terribly, it's all in the wrist. Good. If everything looks all good.
Everything does look all good. Everything does look all good. I'm just going to double check my
head's not like half off the screen?
No.
You didn't notice it
you.
last time.
Oh, I did. It was just we were live.
So you didn't think well, live to like thousands of people.
We were live.
We're live. Yeah, cool. Oh, yeah, it does look right. Yeah, cool.
Told you. See? Always trust me. Always. Forever.
Yeah. I feel like that one time.
That one time. All right. Welcome to episode 80 of a master's degree in rolling terribly. I'm your host, Eddie. Joining me, I'm actually going to start all again. All right.
I didn't even know we were starting. I was looking at my phone. I was like, oh shit, that's me.